So here's a set of ground rules that we find to be super reliable in terms of just helping kind of rules of the road. So first one is a ground rule called be for each other. It's kind of a funny thing to say, we're going to be for each other. The reason it's important is that the goodwill that we extend towards one another and the sort of fundamental wish for each other's well-being makes an enormous difference when we're trying to deal with difference. Because as I was saying earlier, when you start experiencing certain kind of stress hormones in your body, all of the signals from those hormones are that things are wrong. One of the most difficult things to do is to be in a tangle or a conflict or a challenge with someone and remember how much you love them. How many of you have been in a fight with your spouse? You're like, I don't even know why I'm with you.
It was yesterday.
Yeah. And it's literally just due to how our nerve, like literally it impairs cognition and memory. You cannot remember what you like about this person. But the good news is that when you start practicing being for one another, meaning that if Victoria and I struggle, I have a little habit of remembering what she's like when she laughs, that cognitive cue will literally start to change my relationship to her. So we start to change those patterns by having an intention and having a little practice that reminds ourselves that even though it doesn't feel like I'm for you, I actually am. And that's amazing. To use cognition to help override your feeling state is a really important thing. All right, listening well. Listening well just simply means developing our receptive skills. Most fundamentally, it means suspending the discursive thinking, languaging mind, and receiving fully. Listening doesn't mean agreement. It simply means that we're receiving the perspective of the other. Talking straight, I want to be clear, talking straight is a little bit culturally determined. So we want to hold this one lightly. Some cultures are more explicit in their communication. Some cultures are more implicit. To actually be direct with someone would be considered to be rude and not quite well-mannered, depending on your family and your culture. This one's tricky, but what we mean by talking straight is basically that you work when you express yourself so that your body, your speech, and mind are doing the same thing. And if there's something that's difficult to express, that you find a way to say it or you ask for help. So that whatever's happening on the inside, we can find a way to get it into the room so we can work with it. Support and challenge. We talk about safe spaces. We talk about brave spaces. Support is really what I was talking about in terms of sameness. We need to feel safe in order to learn and to relax. However, if there isn't enough challenge in the room, we simply don't grow. How much challenge we can take in any one moment will depend on all kinds of circumstances. A good facilitator's job is to sense what kind of challenge a room can tolerate. And if it's too much, we tend to try to dial it down. Being willing to receive guidance. So we have what we're calling faculty here, but really we're guides, having been working in the realm of transformation and facilitation for a long time. Sometimes there are ways we can help you find some territory in your own mind or in your own being that maybe you hadn't quite seen as an option. And it's really great to get consent. Permission and consent are super important these days in terms of just our willingness to be available makes an enormous difference. So I would love it if you would be willing to receive guidance, and if for whatever reason you find you can't, if you were able to say that, like, I can't, that would be really helpful. Maybe I can help you say it. If I get the sense that you can't, maybe we can just label that. Keeping our agreements, mostly around the container. We're making agreements around the container. You willing to keep them? And if we fall out of that, we'll just address it and straighten it up. We have a negativity bias, everybody. We know that. Really, for me, I think I just got it from my mom. True to the end. But we tend to pick up what's negative as a way of protecting ourselves. In fact, I think Rick Hansen in his book, he talks about we're basically 5 times more likely to pick up what isn't working as opposed to what is. So in order to overcome that negativity bias, we want to be able to offer and use praise. Just use it whenever we can. What is it that's going to help polish and shine and illuminate the moment? It needs to be genuine, otherwise it doesn't work. Confidentiality, everybody. For us, confidentiality is share your experience far and wide. Don't share anybody's identity at all when you're outside of this container. Make sense? Share your experience, don't share people's identities. And then the final agreement that we want to make is just caring for the container. We're trying to create this bubble, keep everybody safe so we could do this in person, but the space is small in certain places. Keeping our clutter organized, sweeping up if you feel like it, that would be super helpful. Is that agreeable to everybody?